Namaste everyone. I hope you all are keeping well physically as well as mentally. This is Moumita back again with another important session on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And we have a very distinguished guest amongst us today who is none other than Shri Niladri Banerjee sir, with whom I have done quite a number of sessions on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And today I'm back again on another session on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose where we will be discussing about the various facts on Netaji, and also related to it we'll speak about the budget of 2023 and the role played by social media, digital India, and the films majorly, which are playing a pivotal role in bringing forward the legacy of Netaji and giving him due recognition. So let's start our session for today. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
How are you doing, sir? Long time.
I'm doing great.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining me again. It's pleasure to see you today. Sir, again, like there are a lot of things happening. The budget came. Netaji's 126th birth anniversary was celebrated, and 21 islands in Andaman were named under the name of the 21 Paramveer Chakra awardees on the birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. What did you feel? Like, how was the feeling, and how did West Bengal celebrate this one, Netaji's birth anniversary this year?
See, first coming to the feeling part, this year's birthday celebration was pretty special because this is for the first time the celebration is happening after Netaji's statue has been installed at India Gate at a place where statue of King George V was there. Now, there has been debate since 1960s about who should replace King George V statue. Names of Mahatma Gandhi had come up, names of Jawaharlal Nehru had come up, and names of Subhash Chandra Bose has come up. Now, finally, government decided today in favor of Subhash Chandra Bose, and last year, 8th September, Prime Minister himself unveiled the statue, and this means that as a legacy of the British, after the British, it was Subhash Chandra Bose who represents India. He is the face of the Indian nation now. His statue is like the Statue of Liberty. And this statue has been placed at the end of Kartavya Path, which was also unveiled on 8th of September, which implies that India plans to follow the path of Netaji to achieve its goal, as said by the Prime Minister, of becoming a developed nation by 2047. Now, the question comes up here, what is the path of Netaji? Because merely putting up statues and, naming islands won't make us really celebrate Netaji's birthday unless his path is followed. Now, the path of Netaji, what I understand, and as Dr. Amartya Sen has repeatedly said, his path is that of unity and his path is that of equality. These are the two words which actually defines his path possibly the best. And if you look at our present government and our Prime Minister, from the beginning, he spoke about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, and Sabka Prayas, which implies that he believes in Netaji's philosophy of development for all and appeasement of none. And coming to equality, if you look at this government, in the last 7 years or 8 years, the government has taken several initiatives to actually walk the last mile and make the benefits of economic reform reach out to the underprivileged classes of society. In Nehru's times, steel plants used to be set up, IIMs used to be set up, IITs used to be set up, which was a great initiative. But during present time, what you have seen, government has taken initiative to set up toilets in the houses of underprivileged people in the villages. Government has taken initiative to make gas connection, Ujala Yojana, available to the underprivileged people. Government has taken initiative to open bank accounts, Jan Dhan Yojana, for the underprivileged people. And most important, government has taken initiative to connect the villages with the mainstream of Indian life through digital India. Digital has taken off. Today also we are connecting to the digital media, and digital has entered every sphere of our life, so much so we often attend office digitally. I hardly go to my office. I do my office often digitally. It saves time, it saves cost, and it helps us mobilize our energy in a better way. So that way, India has been truly transformed following the path of Netaji, the path of unity and equality, and that's what makes it, birthday very special. And also, we are observing this birth anniversary during Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, that is 75 years of our independence. And the Prime Minister, like I said, has set the goal of India becoming a developed nation by 2047. Now, to be a developed nation, it is very important to build a Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the goal which is set up during the COVID times, COVID pandemic, that India needs to be truly self-reliant. And he said, the inspiration to set up an Atmanirbhar Bharat is Subhash Chandra Bose again. It was Subhash Chandra who wanted to see India as a self-reliant nation. And the first step in that regard has been taken when India developed their own vaccine during times of pandemic, and not only face this COVID pandemic as one of the best examples in the world, but also they supplied to the other nations this vaccine. So India has emerged as a powerhouse and is emerging faster. And also, if you look at the economy, IMF has predicted this year India is going to be the fastest growing economy in the world, ahead of all the major economies at a time when the world is shrinking. India is showing growth. So India is really becoming an economic powerhouse and spiritual powerhouse, because we should not forget, Moumita, that we are also setting up the Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, fulfilling the dreams of the people. And Ram often is looked at as someone who is a religious figure, which is not true. Ram is also he was a king. We speak about Ram Rajyo. Mahatma Gandhi spoke about Ram Rajyo, which implies the rule of Ram, which is the impartial rule, which imbibes the spirit of Netaji of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So development and unity, these are the key words of Ram Rajyo. So this setting up of this Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, which is expected to be inaugurated next year by January, which again becomes the birthday month of Netaji, that will be another landmark in unifying the nation. So India has started traveling to the next league of the world. It has started becoming a superpower, which should make us all proud. And coming to a last question, that how it was celebrated in Bengal. Well, in Bengal, Netaji birthday is a holiday, like you know. And I was privileged enough to go to Netaji Bhavan that day. I tried to spend Netaji's birthday at Netaji Bhavan. And I found the kind of people who actually visited Netaji Bhavan, the crowd in front of Netaji Bhavan, could actually show the enthusiasm among the people about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. She still remains the biggest icon of Bengalis in Bengal. There's no question on that.
Absolutely, sir. Talking about Netaji Bhavan's celebration of Netaji's birth anniversary, you were speaking that there were two Japanese who came with the flame of truth there. So, did you speak to them? Did you meet them? And did they? Is it connected somehow to Netaji? Why did they come to Netaji Bhavan on that day? And why are they traveling with the flame of truth?
Yes, I actually had the privilege of speaking to them after the event, and what I could find out from them, they have been to all the important places in the world, including Palestine, including the Berlin Wall, where it was, there at one point of time. And they have also come to Netaji Bhavan, because this flame of truth is actually, the goal is to bring peace across the world. It's a Buddhist, initiative. And, the Netaji is seen as one of the icons of across the world of fight against imperialism. We often look at Netaji as an Indian, nationalist, but he, of course, was an Indian nationalist, but he was much more than that. His struggle was not only against British imperialism, it was against imperialism across the world, because British were not the only people who were imperialist at that point of time. The French were there, the Dutch was there, and there are other races who are imperialist. And his fight was against imperialism. That's why Nelson Mandela came to India and said that his inspiration in struggle against apartheid has been Subhash Chandra Bose. And he said Subhash Chandra Bose has been an inspiration for the blacks, though he never fought for the blacks in real life. But when he fights against an empire of a mighty empire like the British Empire at that point of time, he had the courage to fight against and win freedom. That actually inspired a lot of communities across the world, and we often underestimate, the potential of Netaji. Gayatri Chakraborty's Vivak was there in the program at Netaji Bhavan on 23rd this year, and Gayatri Chakraborty's Vivak first spoke about Netaji being a local boy becoming global, a global Bengali. And she related her experience. She was speaking in a seminar in Japan on a different topic. When she went up to speak, when they found out she's from Bengal, they wanted to hear about Subhash Chandra Bose. They didn't want to hear about, the topic she was supposed to speak about. This shows how much popular Netaji has been. It is very unfortunate. Indian government has actually not given due recognition to Netaji for quite some time. But from 2015 onwards, I'm happy to say that our government is actually giving due importance to Netaji, starting from declassification of Netaji files to unfurling of the flag at Red Fort on 21st October on the 75th anniversary of Azad Hind Sarkar led by Netaji, to actually unveiling the statue at the India Gate. But like many Netaji admirers often say, that the greatest tribute to Netaji would be to build an India following his path, his ideology. And it is, I am very happy to say, our Prime Minister has taken that initiative. He has clearly indicated that the future path for India to become a developed nation, to become Atmanirbhar, will be path of Netaji only. He spoke about industrialization. He spoke about equality, which essentially means the benefit of those industrialization and growth also should reach out to the people. So it is with this twin vision of rapid growth and at the same time equity, India has to move forward to the world following the path of Netaji. So a new beginning has been made. It's remarkable times of India, because India is becoming a superpower these days, emerging as a superpower, economic superpower. So that way, if Netaji would have been very happy, I can say only, if he had been there today.
Absolutely, sir. And compared to 2015, during the last 3 years, we have seen many people coming forward, especially the youth is talking a lot. I can see many youth who are coming forward and speaking on Netaji. Do you think, what is behind? Is it the declassification of Netaji's files in 2015, or what Modi ji is doing these days, giving the proper recognition on Netaji? Or is there any other reason for which the youth is very much showing interest in Netaji's, paying due respect to Netaji these days? I've seen many people coming up in the last 2-3 years.
Netaji has been a hero for Bengalis for pretty long, and he's the biggest icon of Bengalis. There's no question on that. But at an all India level, the government, like I said, had ignored Netaji, had not given due importance to Netaji. So though the people who belong to the older generation, they naturally celebrated Netaji. It was the youth who had hardly heard about Netaji. Now, when they are hearing about Netaji, thanks to the initiative by our Honorable Prime Minister, now they are finding interest in Netaji, and Netaji's life is simply amazing. Think of a man who was extremely good in his studies, who studied in Presidency College, and he actually stood fourth in ICS exam. But he gave up that career for independence movement. Think of a man who actually was elected Congress president twice, but because of differences with the Congress leadership at that time, after being elected president, he gave up that position. And actually, he was arrested after that. He formed his own organization, and he could escape from India, from the surveillance of the British Empire. It was not such an easy task. He could escape from India to Afghanistan, to Soviet Russia, and then to Germany. And Germany was the the deadliest place in the world at that point of time. And he was ready to shake hands with the devil for independence of India. At that time, going to Germany during Hitler's time, where Netaji was known to differ with Hitler on different areas. He had criticized Hitler in the 1930s, very severely criticized Hitler. It was not that easy. And many people saw him in Germany as a Soviet spy because he came through Soviet Union. But then he could convince Hitler, though he could not get in support from Hitler, he could convince Hitler to allow him to undertake a submarine journey and reach Southeast Asia. And then that after that journey, to set up an army over there and to launch a government, an independent government, and becoming the first Prime Minister of undivided India on 21st October 1943 and leading the War of Independence is no mean achievement. And Moumita, we must also remember, Clement Attlee was the British Prime Minister in 1947 who signed the Transfer of Power Agreement of India. He came to Calcutta in the mid-50s and he acknowledged that it was primarily because of the war against empire led by Netaji that British had to give India independence. So he was our first Prime Minister of undivided India. Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of partitioned India after the British actually gave us dominion status. But Netaji was the first Prime Minister of undivided India, a government which was recognized by 11 countries, including Soviet Russia, which was the opposite side to Netaji during the war. And it was because of efforts of Netaji, India won her independence. It is a matter of great pride for Bengalis, and it's a matter of great pride for Indians. But the story doesn't end over here. We still don't know about what happened to Netaji after 1945, 18th August. In the air crash, he's supposed to have died, but then later it was found. The last inquiry commission set up by government of India to find out Netaji's death mystery actually commented that there was no air crash on that day. Netaji did not die on 18th August. Now, because there's a mystery around Netaji, this has also enthralled the youth. So one is his life, the other is his mystery. These are the two reasons, I think, why the youth today is finding so much interest in Netaji. And that if there's a third reason, it is his philosophy. He believed in empowerment of women. Today we speak about empowerment of women, but we still don't send our women to war. Netaji actually could have an army, a regiment called Rani Jhansi Regiment. That unless women fight for independence, the independence which we will win will be men's independence. It won't be women's independence. Still in Indian Army, we don't send our women to war on the land. We have air forces where women can join. But in case of land war, women can't participate still. But Netaji was far ahead of his times. And he believed truly in empowerment of women. He believed truly in actually empowerment of the underprivileged sections of society, about which he spoke at length in different addresses as a Congress leader. So his ideology is so, I would say progressive. It is bound to attract the youth. And that is another reason, because if Netaji had led India after 1947, we would have possibly become a superpower by now. Look at China. China in 1979 also, when Deng Xiaoping took over China, China's GDP was same almost that of India. In 1991 also it was the same, but after that China has made rapid progress. Today China's GDP is $18 trillion and India's GDP is some $3.5 trillion. India is the 5th largest economy in the world, but China, who started their journey at the same time as India, today is almost 5 times that of India. We have to acknowledge this fact. We have to acknowledge this fact. We have not really done enough to build our nation. But what is good is that we have been late, but better late than never. Under the leadership of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India has finally begun its journey to become an economic superpower, which it would have become if Netaji had led India after 1947.
True. Sir, the union budget is also released in the last week. So, what is the best thing which you want to say about this year's budget?
BJP government often has been called a very capitalist government. because it believes in privatization. And it was said, it was criticized because it is encouraging private capital over public investment. But if you look at this year's budget, public capital spending by government has gone up by 33%. It is at a record level of 3.3% of GDP, which would mean that the government would invest in building roads, government will invest in railway tracks, government will invest in more trains, which would mean faster mobility across the economy, better for business, besides creating employment opportunities. So it is not that this government does not believe in public investment, but it does believe in public investment in areas like infrastructure. The mistake we made after 1947 was that we particularly focused from second five-year plan particularly, we focused on the capital investment, but in making steel, in making manufacturing. We thought that it is the role of the government to actually manufacture, which is not true. The role of the government is to build infrastructure, to facilitate business, to help growth of business. It is not to come into manufacturing and compete with the private players. We had Tata Steel, we had SAIL, which essentially means government is competing with the private player. Here there is a conflict of interest, Moumita, because the government is also the regulator. On one hand, the government is the regulator. On the other hand, it is into the industry, a player in the industry. How can it be possible? This duplicity was there in our structure. What this government has done, particularly from this budget, is actually focused investment in the infrastructure sector to build infrastructure of the country, which should naturally create employment, which should naturally create demand for the private sector. Second very important step is the reform of the taxation. The tax rates have been cut, but it has not been a blanket cut. A new system of tax was unveiled last year where there will be no exemptions, because there's different exemptions which we enjoy from our investments, which actually force us to save money. What happens is, we have to, those who take benefit of the 80C benefit of the taxation, they have to spend 1.5 lakh in investments, which they may not want to spend. This time, the government has given opportunity to the people that if they don't take any exemption, they can enjoy a very low tax rate. And the tax rate has been drastically cut, which implies that there will be more money, particularly in the hands of the young people who are new into the workforce, to spend, because their money won't be blocked in investments where they don't want to invest. Rather, they can still enjoy a lower tax rate and have more money to spend, which implies the consumption demand in the economy will go up. So on one hand, the government is spending on building infrastructure by increasing capital investment in the budget. On the other hand, the government is trying to boost consumer demand by putting more money in the hands of the people, which implies that the economic growth is bound to happen. And as a result, the private investment is also going to come up. China came up with a new term. If you look at China after 1979, under Deng Xiaoping and later leaders, they called market socialism. That we often used to think that socialism and free market are two terms who are opposed to one another. China showed us that socialism can actually facilitate expansion of the market, because socialism, targeted socialism, can increase purchasing power of the people. As a result, when the purchasing power increases, the market expands and the bigger market is created for the consumables. India is also started traveling that path shown by China. China took the leadership in this, but India was very late in actually understanding this. India always saw a conflict between capital and labor. India always saw a conflict between socialism and capital and free market. China actually showed the path of market socialism, but today, under leadership of our Prime Minister, India is ready to travel this path of synthesis. Now, if you look at Netaji repeatedly spoke about synthesis. In one of his dialects, he said that first there's a thesis, then in response to it is born an antithesis. First, there's a thesis. Then, in response to it, is born an antithesis, and then the thesis and the antithesis comes together to form a synthesis, which becomes thesis for the next phase of evolution. Which means he is actually saying that at some point the ideology, the thesis and the opposite ideology had to have a synthesis. And this synthesis will drive the next phase of evolution. And this is Hegel's, theory of thesis and synthesis. And this
Yes.
theory was repeated by Netaji. India today is following that path, actually forgetting the past differences of the right and the left, of socialist and free marketers. India is following a path of synthesis with the single minded focus on development. For that,
Mm.
the poor needs to be empowered, and for that, the capitalists need to have enough incentives to spend in the market, which is a balance we need to strike. India is ready to travel that balanced path possibly today. And Netaji only wanted that to happen. So that way, we are on the verge of fulfilling his dreams. How well we do this task ahead is only to be seen. But things look very bright at present.
True. Sir, connected to the budget thing, one question came to my mind is about Netaji formed INA, okay, and that time British were ruling. So from where did Netaji used to get so much funding, or he used to manage the budget in purchasing the armed this one, or feeding the people who were fighting for our freedom?
You know,
I mm,
today, when we
yes,
have the budget, how do we manage the fund? We have taxation, right? We have
yes,
taxation, which are direct taxes, which are indirect taxes, which people pay, and that's how the fund get mobilized. In
mm,
Netaji's time, Netaji did not have a opportunity to have a taxation at that time because India was imprisoned at that point. What he did,
mm,
he appealed to the people to voluntarily contribute, and such was the response. Think of a situation where people come forward, there's no taxation, but the people come forward to donate money, donate their wealth for building our country. Netaji could achieve that without any taxation. He actually could inspire the people to contribute for independence movement. And he amassed so much of wealth at that point of time from the non-resident Indians in Singapore that he could have a bank also. His government also had a currency. His government also had a bank. So he actually set up a model of inspiring people to contribute to nation building. At that point,
mm.
the challenge was to win independence. But at this point of time, the challenge is to build a nation after we have won the independence. But Netaji could inspire people to come forward and pay your tax. Today, when our finance minister speaks about a lower tax rate without any exemptions, what is the message she is giving? She is giving the message that we have to build our nation. So please, we are having a lower rate of tax. Come forward without any complication. Have a simple method of calculation, pay your tax. And second thing was the government need to undertake possibly today. At that point in Netaji actually received those money. Netaji ensured not a single penny is stolen. Today, the money which we pay for tax, there's a big
Mm,
apprehension about the corruption, how that money is utilized, because this
mm,
money is utilized through the state governments. And when the state governments utilize the money, in Bengal, what kind of corruption allegations are coming up. Already one minister and one very prominent leader is behind bars on corruption allegation,
mm.
and they're not getting, two ministers possibly, and one prominent leader, organizational leader of the ruling party is behind bars. But Bengal is no exception. This kind of corruption has been all across India. So regarding
All
utilization of our tax funds, the government needs to take, more stricter norms and more enforced norms at this point of time, possibly to have people contribute. I believe people are ready to contribute to nation building. They don't contribute because they believe their money is being stolen by the politicians and the bureaucrats. Very simply and bluntly, I'm putting it. Netaji at his time, he ensured himself that every penny which he receives is utilized for the war
yes,
of independence of India. So that credibility was there, there was mechanism was there, and there was no tolerance of corruption in Azad Hind Sarkar. So our government needs to have a zero tolerance on corruption. If you follow me in social media, one of the goals which I have set this year out of the 5 goals is to have a zero tolerance on corruption. I am not going to compromise on corrupt people on any occasion and any excuse. I think the entire government needs to take this mission forward, where even the people in the ruling party, even the people in the ruling BJP, if they are corrupt, action needs to be taken, which is unfortunately needs to happen today. A culture needs to come in India which is against corruption and for transparency. And this corruption is across parties. Let's not blame one party from another. It is across
Yes, yes.
parties. So we need to be
And sir, how
inspired
much
by.
ever we try, yes, how much ever we try, sir, the thing is, it is less as compared to the last 10 to 15 years, but still there are certain things, certain places where this are still used, like corruption is still being done by people uh, in different, sectors, but it is less as compared to the last 10 to 15 years. I must say this. So that
No,
means the government and the people are getting aware about these things.
no, it has never happened, Moumita, that in Bengal, if you look at it, a
Mm.
very powerful minister is in jail
Mm.
on corruption charges because 50
Mm.
crores was unearthed from his relative's house, from his friend's house. Another minister is also in jail. It has never happened in history of Bengal. But the
Mm.
big point is that is it enough? Is it enough to only imprison these people who are corrupt or to stop corruption in all forms, have a zero tolerance to corruption? If we truly want to actually pay tribute to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, we need to have a system which has zero
Mm.
tolerance for corruption. I'm sure our prime minister will lead that charge. And you know that the resistance he might face is from his own party as well, because it is not that people in BJP are not corrupt. It was said there are some leaders in BJP in 2021 elections who came from Delhi. They actually, sabotaged some part of the election because of some corrupt practices. I don't know how far is it true, but there are rumors. And there is there is reports about BAPOM scam in education sector in BJP ruled MP. So there's charges of corruption against BJP in Karnataka. So
Mm.
it's like it's a culture against corruption, and because our
Yes.
system has become corrupt, this would require something out of the ordinary. And it would require good people in politics. Today, I find very, it is encouraging that people like Jaisankar, people like
Yes.
Ashwini Vaishnav, they are coming into politics and becoming ministers. Jaishankar knows foreign policy much better than many politicians. And Vaishnav
Yes.
is an MIT graduate, who is leading railways this year. Now,
Yes.
we have to have people who are competent in governance
Yes.
instead of corrupt politicians in governance. Unfortunately, our system has been like that. Netaji, if he had led India, he would have never let it happen. But it is better late than never. If you have to truly follow Netaji, that's what I was saying. It is not enough to put up statues and you name islands. It is also important to implement his ideology. And his ideology is not, often it is thought, okay, Netaji was against religion. No, Netaji was not
No, no,
against
no, no.
religion. He was,
He was the most
uh,
secular leader, sir. He was the most secular leader, and I feel that if he was, officially recognized as the first prime minister of India after partition too, there would have been no partition. Neither we would have had Pakistan nor we would have Bangladesh now, and everybody would have been unified by now, and people would not have even demanded partition if Netaji was our first prime minister after independence.
yeah,
This is
Mohammed, I
my
agree
point.
with you. I agree with you, but the point is, he was also a very spiritual person and a very devoted Hindu. His life was an example. A person can be a follower of Swami Vivekananda, a person can be a follower of Rishi Aurobindo, an extremely spiritual person who used to go to Ramakrishna Mission regularly, even when he was in Singapore. But at the same time, he was very inclusive towards all religions. Muslims was a
Mm.
very important part of his army. Colonel
Yes,
Habibur Rahman, Colonel Abid Hassan, and other people, Saukat Ali Malik, and there are many other
yes,
names which can come up. Sanawaz Khan,
I know.
all these people were there. They're part of his army, while Muslims hardly participated in the non-violent movement which Congress had across India.
Mm.
Muslims hardly participated in that movement. They felt somehow they couldn't connect with the movement, but they participated in Netaji's war for liberation. This was a prime example to show that
Exactly.
Netaji actually could achieve unity, and there was no Hindu, there was no Muslim, there was no Christian in his army. They're all
Yes.
Indians. All
Yes.
Muslims,
So, sir,
all Christians,
I,
all Hindus,
yes,
they're
sir.
Indians at the end of the day. That identity
Yes,
Netaji could actually imbibe.
true. So, sir, there is one question here. Gandhiji was witnessing all these things when Netaji became a second time president of Congress, and he was also witnessing what Nehru was doing. Nehru was doing. Okay, why did he support Nehru more than Netaji on those at that particular time? What was the reason? Because till now, this youth, whenever we discuss about this topic, we always have this question in mind that when people were in support of Netaji, when everybody was seeing that Netaji could unify India, but why Gandhiji was the one who was supporting Nehru more than Netaji?
The person who was opposed to Netaji in the Congress mostly was Sardar Patel, not Nehru. Nehru rather was neutral at that point of time. Gandhi, his main opposition to Netaji was on the question of uncompromising struggle against the British. Netaji
Hmm.
was of the opinion that taking advantage of the war, India should try to win independence, because if they try to win independence at that point of time, then partition could have been avoided. Gandhi was of the opinion that in times of trouble, India should help the British, and British should automatically give them independence after the war is over. But Netaji apprehended if India did not win independence, then it would come at the cost of partition, because that is what has happened in India, that we got our
Mhm.
independence, which was given to us, but it came at the cost of partition of India
Yes.
on religious lines, which Gandhi could not prevent. Now, where comes the role of Nehru? Nehru, he was neutral in during this tussle between Netaji and the Congress leadership. But in 1943, when Netaji was leading Azad Hind Force after forming Azad Hind government, Nehru came to Calcutta, attended a rally at Shraddhananda Park, and said that if Netaji tries to enter India with Japanese help, I'll be the first person to stop him with a sword. So think of a situation that where Nehru is saying that if Netaji tries to liberate India, I'm going to be the first one to stop him. But then what
Yeah.
happened in 1945, after INA lost the war to the British and the INA soldiers were surrendered, and the trial happened at Red Fort, Nehru suddenly switched sides, sensing the public mood, and he appeared on behalf of the INA soldiers during that trial. And the three soldiers, Shahnawaz Khan, Gurvat Singh Dhillon, and Sehgal, all
Hmm.
had to be released by the British government. But the interesting part is after India became independent in 1947, not a single soldier was taken in the Indian army by Nehru's government. Indian army did not have any soldier of Azad Hind Force. Well, the Pakistan army could have soldiers in the Azad Hind Force, and that is why many soldiers of Azad Hind Force actually shifted to Pakistan. They did not come to India. So that is the historic blunder India had done. These soldiers of Azad Hind Force could have been a big inspiration to the Indian army. They were the liberators of India. That was the army of liberation, but Nehru did not give them place in the Indian army. And what happened
Hmm.
later on? Pakistan occupied a part of Kashmir. India lost a part of Kashmir to Pakistan in 1947. And till today, that Pak occupied Kashmir
Fighter.
is used for terrorism against India, where there's sufficient evidence to find. So Nehru actually lost Kashmir to Pakistan because Indian army could not be inspired
Hmm.
sufficiently. And tactically, there are the blunders. And not to forget, 1962, the the gigantic loss in the war to China. Chinese army,
Hmm.
after defeating India, this for reasons best known to them, they withdrew suddenly. Otherwise, India was in for further humiliation at that point of time. Only after that, India realized. Only after this humiliating defeat to China under leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru, India realized that following Netaji's path, India needs to have a strong army. And today, if you look at Republic Day, we have shown that our artillery, our armed power, India is a nuclear power as well from 1971 onwards. So yeah, like I was saying, Moumita, it was a different India which actually came into being. After this humiliating war, but it was a reminder that the Gandhian path which India tried to follow from 1947 to 1962, that really did not work for India unless our country is well protected. it cannot prosper as an economy because protection is paramount. Look at Ukraine, what has happened to that country. They did not spend adequately in defense. Look at Afghanistan, what happened to the government in that country. Today, Taliban has taken over, and all kinds of activities they are continuing against women. So it is a question of also defending our country well. And India realized that thanks to the blow they received. And India had to follow the path of Netaji that way, as far as defense is concerned. So Gandhian part India had to leave because that is not practical in real world. It is a great philosophy to read, but in real life, India realized India needs industries. Gandhi was against big industries. India had to set up big industries. Nehru himself had to set up big industries. India needed a strong army, which Netaji wanted, but India initially neglected the army only to actually realize and actually set up the army. But what India could not do till now, which was initiated by Modi ji, was equality. That India needed to actually make the benefits of this development reach the lower sections of the society, which was neglected in India. Unless the lower sections of the society are empowered, underprivileged are empowered, Indian market cannot expand because they can't have purchasing power to buy the goods. Today, a major source of attraction for the multinationals in India, as well as the Indian companies, the rural market in India. And Modi ji's initiative to empower the rural youth through Digital India and through various schemes, various benefits, actually had made a difference. So we have truly started following that equality which Netaji stood for, besides development and unity, after this new government took over. And we had lost precious time. So if you remember 1991, Narasimha Rao's government initiated economic reform. But in 1996, people actually defeated the government. So that reform was not popular. It was very clear. On the other hand, Narendra Modi ji, when he initiated these initiatives of reaching out to the poor in 2014 onwards, in 2019, his government came back to power, which implies with a higher mandate, which implies that the people were happy with his initiatives. So it is under this new government, I would say, Netaji's dream, there's a possibility we are seeing of Netaji's dream getting truly fulfilled, because it is a dream of equality as well, besides development. And if we neglect equality and just focus on development, just focus on unity, then this dream won't happen, because he also spoke about not only political freedom, but economic freedom for all and social freedom. Social freedom can't happen unless there's empowerment of women, and economic freedom can't happen unless the benefits of development reach the lowest strata of society. These are the true, the two actually pillars of the ideology of Netaji stood for. And it was a very pragmatic approach which he believed in. He didn't believe in utopian thinking, okay, violence is bad, we won't have an army, like Gandhi used to believe. So if to answer your question, what the conflict which started between Netaji and Gandhi, the ideological conflict in 1939 onwards, finally Netaji has emerged victor, because Gandhian path has been discarded by India, and it has not been adopted by any country in the world. On the other hand, Netaji's path they have to adopt over a period of time, though they are late in actually adopting the path.
And so Digital India has also played a huge role in bringing the youth forward. For example, there are new films made on Netaji. Rajkumar Rao, being a national actor, national level actor, is portraying the character of Netaji. S.S. Rajamouli, the film RRR, which won 2 nominations, Oscars. So there also the first picture which came after the movie ended was about Netaji when the song started, and that brought tears to my eyes. And Rajamouli, when he came for promotions of RRR in West Bengal, he said that Netaji played a huge role in making the world know about Alluri Sitharama Raju, who was one of the major characters, which was played by Ramcharan. So Netaji used to know so much about the Indian freedom strugglers or the freedom fighters, which was only conceptualized or limited to the state state people, but now people are coming forward following the ideology of Netaji, and so many freedom fighters who needed due recognition. It was not only Netaji, I would feel, even Komaram Bheel, who was from Telangana, or Alluri Sitarama Raju also deserved the same recognition, but they were only limited to the state boundaries. But now people from national level or international level, I would say, are knowing about these people.
No, no, because Netaji was an Indian first and a Bengali later. His
Hmm.
identity was that of an Indian, and in spite
Yes.
of being a Bengali icon, he never gave any favoritism to the Bengalis. You know, later leaders who came represented Bengal, they have often been accused of favoritism. But Netaji always believed in meritocracy. He always believed in giving due recognition to people from all across India who actually contributed to the freedom struggle. And that's where he was so much accepted. In Azad Hind Fauj, a lot of people Netaji who fought with Netaji were from Tamil Nadu. Netaji was very
Yes.
popular in Tamil Nadu. The election in which Netaji defeated Gandhi's candidate, he got a lot of votes from states like Tamil Nadu. If you look at besides Bengal, of course, voted for Netaji. Orissa, he was very popular. Punjab, he was very popular, which made a big difference. So he actually, Uttar Pradesh, what is Uttar Pradesh today? He was very popular in Uttar Pradesh. So it was his presence which actually made a big difference. I can relate an experience. I went to Nalanda University some time back, and there I could meet up with some Dalits from Uttar Pradesh, and I had an occasion of actually interacting with them. So I asked them about Baba Sahib Ambedkar, they being Dalits, and they said he is our savior. Then I asked them about Mahatma Gandhi. He said he cheated us. They said he cheated us. They said it very clearly. They were very non-political people, so they said well, he cheated us. Ambedkar gave us the rights. And then I asked them that have you heard about Subhash Chandra Bose? I'm not sure if they've heard about it. They're from UP. They said he's our God. They said he is a god. That is the word they used. Very uneducated people, the farmers. They said he is our god. Subhash Chandra Bose, he is the god. He's an incarnation of God for us. And they reminded me what Ambedkar said about Netaji. Ambedkar said, we got our independence. It is only because of Netaji. He said in an interview to BBC. Today there is so much controversy about BBC's this report, that report. We never speak about that interview Ambedkar, where Ambedkar clearly says India got its independence because of Netaji. So that is the place of Netaji in the heart of Indian people across India, and this place he enjoys because he gave due importance to the freedom fighters from all across India. He was not a communal person in the sense that communalism can be of two forms. One is religious communalism, other is communal towards people who speak your language, your mother tongue. But he realized that India's unity comes from unity in diversity. That's where, and of course the Aryan culture which India represents. So that's where he could connect to the people across India, and that's where he gave recognition. And today, India gets inspired for Netaji. If there's one leader which can inspire the youth of India, it is Netaji. Look at his life. No other leader comes even close. No other Indian leader has ever formed an army and fought against an empire. No other Indian leader has gone out of India and formed a government. So it is out of question. No leader comes close even. So that's why he's an inspiration to many people. Netaji is automatically an inspiration. And think of that times. Netaji used radio, which was a new technology. Today we speak about digital India. In 1942, it was radio. And in radio address, he actually could address Indians in 1942 from Germany and 1941 from Germany through radio. So he actually brought radio broadcast into India. He used it for freedom struggle. And you know what he said in a broadcast on Azad Hind Radio from Germany in 1942, early 1942. He called BBC Bluff and Bluster Corporation of London. Today there is so much of controversy on what BBC report has said, etc., etc. Netaji called BBC by that name. There's a documented record on that. Of it. He actually realized the important point is that Netaji realized that BBC is a bias towards the British. Has BBC ever exposed Winston Churchill for his role in the Bengal famines? which is well documented. So many people died in Bengal famines. They have document history against Hitler, which is good. They have documented history against many people. But what about their own leaders? BBC is very biased, very partial towards the British establishment. It is very well known. They are funded by the British establishment. It is very well known. And they have justified different misdeeds of the British Empire. So he very clearly pointed out. And today, it's very sad. I feel very sad when there's some documentary on BBC which challenges the verdict of Indian Court of Law. Indian Court of Law has given a verdict regarding 2002 riots. They challenge it. They said, no, they were biased. The Indian courts are biased. BBC is giving the verdict. And the Indian leaders who say that BBC is a very credible organization. I'd request them to listen to Netaji. Then they don't believe. Then let them not call Netaji the icon, because Netaji called BBC a bluff and bluffed the organization. It is recorded. Yes. But there are other stories also. In 1984, Rajiv Gandhi, after Indira Gandhi's assassination, Rajiv Gandhi was trying to find out what actually happened, because state media had blocked out news. Rajiv Gandhi could not find out. Then he told his comrades in the party to listen to BBC, because he thought it's a very credible source of organized information. So their leaders, like Rajiv Gandhi being an example, who believe in BBC, who believe that Indian media is not as competent as BBC, and their leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose, who believed that BBC is a propaganda machinery of the British Empire. So it is for us to decide which stream of thinking we should believe. One who gives precedence to BBC over local media, or one who believes that BBC is a propaganda machinery and they are doing their job. They are doing their job for the British Empire. It is very unfortunate that some people in India, because of their colonial hangover, still finds a lot of merit. You know, today there's so much controversy, the Hindenburg report against one of the Indian business houses. Now, what is Hindenburg? Hindenburg is not a research organization. It is a short seller. A short seller buys shares at a low price and sells it at a higher price. That's how they make their money. When a short seller gives a report about an entity, which is supposed to be one of the biggest entity across the world, and the share price crashes, the question of, the conflict of interest comes up. But if they have genuine evidence, they would have filed a lawsuit. Very simple. They would have taken the Adani group to court. They are not doing that. They're just filing a report, making the share price fall. And I don't know how they'll benefit out of it. Maybe there's some plan. And what the worst part is that Indian media and some section of Indian leadership is going gaga about Hindenburg. Today, what you are finding, the real enemy also is inside India, who are applauding efforts to defame our prime minister, who are applauding efforts to defame our business houses like Adani. Adani, if you call Adani a pro-BJP organization, then let me remind you that Adani invested most in Rajasthan, which is ruled by Congress. Adani invested in Kerala, which is ruled by left front, and Adani is investing $3.1 billion in West Bengal, which is ruled by TMC. If Adani is corrupt, they feel, then why did they allow these investments to happen? So you'll take the benefit. But when a foreign entity who happens to be not a research organization but a short seller raises finger at Adani, you start believing it. That has been the story of India, Moumita. For 200 years, British could rule India because certain sections of Indians sided with the British. When Netaji actually started fighting against the British, he called for complete independence. A section of the Congress said in 1928 session of the Congress in Calcutta, that included Mahatma Gandhi as well, that India doesn't need complete independence, India needs dominion status. But then, because of pressure of leaders like Netaji, and Nehru was with Netaji at that point of time for complete independence, Gandhi had to actually accept the demand of complete independence in 1929 session. So there has been leaders like 1939, like I said, that Netaji wanted war against the empire, taking advantage of the world war. But it was Gandhi who said that, no, let us help the British in times of need. So it was a section of the Indian leadership, and Gandhi is just an example, who actually sided with the enemy, sided with the British. Yes. I don't know, for reasons best known to them. And today even, they are there are sections of the Indian politics and media who are actually finding a lot of value in reports which can otherwise be questioned. Let there be an independent evaluation. But why should, when a foreign entity is trying to defame our government, our prime minister, disregarding verdict of a court just because that verdict had gone in favor of the prime minister? Today, the opposition is actually speaking out against our judiciary. They're speaking out against our army. When the army is actually having a surgical strike, they're questioning the strike. Such has been the state. So the enemies within the state are more within India. So we have to understand how we'll fight this internal enemy who are working against India, because India is possibly voting for development. They're voting for ideology of Netaji, and they're voting against corruption. So that has been the story of India. It is not a fight between political parties today. It is the fight between followers of Netaji and the followers of Gandhian thinking, the followers of Nehruvian thinking. That is a clear demarcation in India.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I had two or three more questions, which I will continue in our next session. But before we conclude, I think you have recently been to the book fair in Kolkata. I don't know the exact location, but out of that, which is your favorite book, sir? Now, which book would you suggest the youth like us to read these days on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose?
See, I bought a book which I can suggest to others. But I went to book fair today. Today being a Sunday. I bought a book which is written by Shankari Prasad Bosu. Shankari Prasad Bosu is a Bengali very well acclaimed professor of Calcutta University and very well known academic. He's not with us anymore, but he had written a book on Netaji. There are two parts of that volume, which has been published on by West Bengal government. So I would, if anyone is interested about Netaji and happens to be a Bengali, then they should refer to that book of Shankari Prasad Bosu, which is a new publication. So it's a good initiative which has been taken, because there's a renewed interest about Netaji today among the youth, like you're saying. So if someone is interested about Netaji, then it is one book which they should read. And I also bought another book, I must say. It is written by a friend, Dr. Partho Sarathy Mukherjee, and he calls himself Bangali Badi. Bangali Badi means he is a champion of Bengalism, and his mission is that he says, to be a good Indian, you have to have a good Bengali also. And he stated the example of Netaji to me. He said Netaji, he was a global personality, but he was a Bengali at heart. He never lost his Bengali soul to become a global personality. So you have to be a Bengali first to be a good Indian. So that is the lesson also. So he has written a very good book, which is a collection of his thinking on this unifying Bengalis across India. So this is also important, because often we think about India, we only think about Hindi culture, which is not right. Hindi, of course, is the heartland of India, but along with Hindi, the regional cultures like Tamil, like Odia, like Bengali, like Gujarati, like Marathi, like Kannada, you and Karnataka is apart. They need to be recognized. The regional cultures, and we should be proud about Kannada, for example. Their culture is very rich. Tamil culture is very rich. They should be proud of their own culture. And that doesn't make them any less Indian. Like you're saying, Netaji is to give importance to the regional leaders who fought for freedom. It is also a form of recognition. So cultural recognition is equally important. So let us be Indians, not just by imitating the Hindi culture, not just by watching Pathan. Of course, we watch Pathan. I'm against any boycott. But, also be proud of your own culture. Also read Rabindranath. Also read about the writers, Bankim Chandra. Read Bankim Chandra and other present writers. Read Nilotsi Chaudhary, a great academic. Read Shankari Prasad Bosu, Netaji's book. So know about our own culture. Besides, and the last word I would like to say, Moumita, I was reading from the book. Shankari Prasad Bosu has written, Netaji was a disciple of Swami Vivekananda. And Vivekananda has two big disciples. One is Bhagini Nivedita, Sister Nivedita, who carried on the social work on behalf of Vivekananda, and other was Subhash Chandra Bose, who got inspired from him, actually led India to independence. So Netaji and Vivekananda cannot be separated today. So for the youth, these are the two youth icons, Subhash Chandra Bose and if there's an icon for Indian women, one of the icons could be Sister Nivedita. She was an Irish woman who came to India, adopted the Indian lifestyle, and then worked for betterment of the people, social service. And these are the icons for our society, for the youth, like you're saying, for the youth and women. They are the powerhouses, of India today. And if youth and women rise, then only India can rise, like you are planning. And the inspirations can come from leaders like Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being a follower of Netaji, I completely believe that, sir. And thank you so much for joining me today again. We'll meet you again with some other questions which are still left in my mind in our next session. Thank you so much.
I look forward to it. Jai Hind.
Sure, sir, sure. Thank you.